What is up, everybody? Jester here, and today we're going to take a one video break when it comes to me showing you the best base place locations for a brand new player in Conan Exiles. Because to get to this last location that I want to cover and show you all the resources you can get there, I think you're going to need a buddy. You're going to need a pal and a sidekick, and that's going to come in the form of a Thrall. And unfortunately, Thralls are, to me, the most confusing part of the game. There are hidden numbers, there are percentages, there is math, and I really struggled with this until I kind of got my head wrapped around it. And the goal for today is to help you guys make a good decision when getting your sidekick to go up north and get into some of these better resources and even better Thralls. We have got so much to talk about today. Let's get right into it. In the last video, I showed you that cave right over there, Sinner's Refuge, is probably the most overpowered location on the map for pulling tier 4 crafting Thralls. There are only 2 exceptions to the things you can't pull out of that cave when it comes to tier 4, and that includes all the little niche professions you can get for armorer, blacksmith, and carpenter. And that's going to be one of the blacksmiths, and edgesmith does not appear there, and then a sorcerer does not actually appear in the cave. However, there is a location that is very nearby where you can get that tier 4 thrall. But today, what I want to focus on is the fighters and the archers that we could pull out of that cave, and then some other ones that are not too far away and some others that are a little further away, as well as one companion today that we're going to look at. And I just want to show you that none of these are created equal. Even if you get the exact same thrall, they're not going to end up the same. Before I get too far into showing you folks exactly my methodology of how I look at the numbers and try to decipher them, I do want to point out some disappointment with Funcom. And that's because, sure, when you go and you look at the attributes, you can see the starting numbers for each of the 4 attributes, as well as the percentage of growth chance per level at each one of them. My problem with Funcom comes that there are actually hidden numbers here that you can't see without the developer toolkit or a mod. And I just disagree with this completely. I think not knowing these damaged modifiers and you're looking for a particular type of thrall, you may spend all kinds of time leveling up a thrall that in the end is just not worth it. So I really think if they're going to associate a number to a thrall, it really should be public information. This part of it isn't really random number generation because these are static per thrall. They don't change and you can't manipulate them, but seeing them would help. And that's why in this video, we're going to be using the extended thrall stats mod from Grandpa Who. I'm going to put a link for that in the description. It's in the Steam Workshop. This is just a quality of life mod that's going to show you all the numbers we're going to need. And it's a godsend. So if you're on a solo server, this is a must-have. If you're on a private server, talk to your admins or your owner and see if they'll put this on, because it doesn't change gameplay in any way. It just lets you make more informed decisions. Now that we have our mod installed, it is crystal clear that Funcom is hiding stats from you. And for me, being the nerd I am and loving trying to put real-world practice into these numbers and then showing you guys my results, I feel like Funcom's just wasting my time by not including it. But this is neither here nor there. This is just my personal opinion. But thank you to Grandpa Who once again, who did extended thrall stats. The link's in the description. I'm not getting anything out of it, but your single player experience is going to be so much better if you have this mod installed. With all that being said, though, let's talk about attributes. There are 4: strength, agility, vitality, and grit. For me, I cut grit completely off the list. I'm not interested in grit in any way. This is going to be your stamina pool, which really doesn't apply to thralls, and it's also going to be your armor, which I feel I can mitigate in gear once we have the recipes for it, because we have the good tier 4 crafters from here at Sinner's Refuge. So I don't worry about this stat at all. If a thrall comes out with 100% growth chance at grit, I usually just break the bond. I'm not interested in that stat. If you guys are, please tell me in the comments why you are, because I'd surely like to know. When it comes to strength and agility, I've got to give a shout out to Shy-Tan Shy-Bear, who taught me very early on that you just pick one. It doesn't matter which one you pick. There are great weapons when it comes to strength, including bows, and there are great weapons for agility, including bows. And it's a fool's errand to try to level them both up. In our case here, it's clear with a 100% chance, we're going to try for strength. Now, it's going to happen every level. Is it going to be a great thrall? Probably not. But I'm going to show an experiment here in a minute where sometimes you get more than 1 point per level. It's weird. It's not very uniform, but we'll show that here in a little bit. When it comes to vitality, I think this is the stat that everybody is looking for. This is your health pool, and it's going to give basically survivability. when it comes to your Thrall. How long can they be in the fight? How much damage can they take before they get knocked down? And this is a big one. And for us, we got a decent number here at 79. We're going to round that off to 80 just for math purposes here. I know that it would be 21% and 79%, but let's call it 80-20 for the sake of argument. What this basically means is 1 out of every 5 levels, we are not going to get a point for vitality at 79%. But it doesn't really work that way. It could be 6 or 8 levels that we don't get a point, or it could be 1. And the reason it works that way, I try to liken it to a coin flip. Now, everybody thinks that a coin flip has 2 outcomes. It's 50-50, right? And that's true. But that doesn't mean that each individual instance of a coin flip is not going to be the same as it was on the previous one, because each is its own individual event. And this is hard to kind of understand, but this is what I call stacked RNG. And that's why it's possible to get 5 heads in a row, or 10 heads in a row, or 100 heads in a row. Now, typically the number, as the number gets bigger on a 50-50 shot, it's less likely, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen, because 100 times you could flip heads. Are the odds against that? Absolutely. But that's how RNG works. And in this case, I think we're pretty good at 79%, but there is a way we can manipulate 1 growth chance stat per Thrall. And the way we're going to manipulate a stat is going to be through food in the inventory while the Thrall is following us and currently fighting. This is also going to serve as heals, by the way, and you can see those numbers over here. Some are better than others, but it is what it is. If you wanted the level grit for whatever reason, shredded roast, grilled steak is going to be your vitality, cooked fish is going to be the agility, and then gruel would be your strength. Now, in our case, we've got a 100% chance at strength, so I'm not too worried about it. And we definitely want to try to enhance our odds when it comes to vitality, so we would be giving this Thrall grilled steak. Think about it this way. This would move us up to 93%, but let's just say it moved us to 90%. All right, that means if we rolled a 10-sided dice, the number 1 would be the 1 out of 10 that we don't get a point. There'd be 9 other sides of that die that we would actually get the point in vitality. So again, it's RNG, and understanding the RNG is important to making good decisions when it comes to Thralls. Now that we have a better understanding of what we're up against when it comes to the RNG, I have to point out that there's still 2 levels of RNG when it comes to these Thralls. Number 1, are they even in the spot they can spawn? If it's not a guaranteed spawn, there's a chance it may not be there. And it may not be there every run. It may not be there on 5 straight runs. So there's the first level of RNG. The second level comes when you do get one to spawn and you put it in the Wheel of Pain. They're not going to come out of the Wheel of Pain the same. They're going to have different growth chances. And I do want to do some science at the end, so we're going to go kind of fast for this part, because I still think there's another level of RNG, even if they have the same growth chance, and I hope to prove that today. Now, the Deathbringer is basically the same. When you hear people saying they're the identical Thralls, yes, all the attribute bonuses are the same now that we can see those numbers, but the growth chances, again, are going to be different. One that is a little bit weird to me is Amarath the Swift. This one had a 100% chance at agility and grit. And then on the second one that I brought out of the cave, exactly the same, even though the strength and vitality numbers are different. And this one would be a good archer because the range multiplier is really good. I just feel like if you don't get a good vitality number, it's probably not worth it, because at this point we're getting good agility, and 40% wouldn't be all that interesting. I think the grit stat is wasted on this Thrall. I think you'd probably be better off with one of these Hager Hawkeyes, or Hager Hawkeyes, however it's enunciated. It starts with a little bit less on attributes and stuff, but I think just all around it's going to be a bit of a better. He's not going to hit as hard with the archery as the other guy, but again, these are a little more accessible in my experience, and I just found that they're fine if you want an archer to follow you. The one that I think is very misleading, and the reason that I'm upset with Funcom over the not showing of all the stats, is this guy, because he only spawned once in our dozens and dozens of runs, and I think that's really misleading because he's got almost 1100 health to start, and you would think if you didn't know that he had bad multipliers, this is a good Thrall, and it turns out that he's just not going to be all that great. Yes, he starts with 30 agility, so he might be a good agility fighter, but he's not going to hit all that hard, because whether you put him as an archer or a melee guy, because he's only at 1.3 and 1.2, and that number is completely hidden by Funcom, and that's why I disagree with it. I like to have the numbers so I can make good decisions. So don't just think because he's got higher health pool, he's better. The Deathbringers and the False Hopes are actually better Thralls when it comes down to it. Now, two other quick things before I hit the really popular stuff, and that's going to be the Tarman. I said in the last video you should be leveling this guy. After seeing these multipliers, I disagree now. I have to take that back and issue an apology. You should probably be leveling up a False Hope or a Deathbringer. I think you're just going to end up with a better Thrall, even though he starts with 30 agility. And if you want to turn him into an agility Thrall, that's fine. But he's not going to hit as hard as the other ones you pull out of Sinner's Refuge. And the Tarman is a little bit harder to get because that fight is a little more dicey, especially at an early level. Another one that is very popular is the Cannibal Brute. And it kind of doesn't matter if you get the guy or the girl. I'm not seeing why they say that this one just hits really hard. I think maybe in the past, this one had a better damage multiplier, but as of now, the Cannibal Brute, I don't see it. And plus, they start with grit, so that's going to be a no from me, dog. But there are some other ones here that we want to talk about, and I do want to touch on the companions next. I have spent the last 4+ days gathering these Luffy so I could point out why people either love or hate companions when it comes to Conan Exiles. Is because even the Luffy, who is a structured quest with 8-hour wait times in between each task, is still RNG heavy. Here you can see the growth chances, and if we go to the one and pay attention here to the health pool at 2282, the guy next to him is at 1938, and his growth chances are completely different. And to me, I feel like this is kind of bad implementation. This is the best one that I've actually seen because he's got a 93% chance at strength, so we would probably leave that alone. And then we would boost that 58% chance to a 72% chance with the grilled steak. That's still not great. It's still under, 3/4 or 75%, but it's the best one I've seen. I even leveled a couple of them up to level 20 to just kind of illustrate the fact that their health pool is just not all that great. So I don't know. I think this could have been implemented better, but this completely explains why some people love these companions because they've got really good ones that had good growths, and others hate it because they don't like having to go through a quest that's time gated and then get something they weren't looking for and then have to go do it again. It's kind of like artificial inflated playtime. And as we know, I'm not a big fan of that from my No Man's Sky series because Hello Games is guilty of that a lot. And this seems like Funcom has kind of taken a page out of that book. I do want to briefly touch on a few other very popular Thralls as well as a couple that are very gimmicky. The first being the Sumerian Berserker, if not the best fighter in the game, probably the second best fighter. Just all around very good, very accessible to get to. We're going to talk about that more in the next video. And if it isn't the best fighter in the game, this one probably is. The Dalancia Snow Hunter. Again, make up your mind on this one. This one starts with about 200 extra in the health pool, so that might give her the edge, but again, we'll talk more about them in the next video. Now, earlier I mentioned that the tougher the area, typically the better the Thrall. These are Volcano Thralls, and you can clearly see the best melee multipliers we've seen yet are here with these at 2.516. It's insane, really. The problem I have with these is their vitality is never going to get as high as the Snow Hunter or the Zerker. So, if you want to end a fight a little bit quicker, this guy can probably do it, but he's not going to have as much of a health pool. Another Thrall I saw a lot of people on 1520 using in their Purge base particularly was this one, the Ulrich Bearbaiter. Now, as far as I can tell, he's only available from Purge cages, or you can spawn them in. And his real attraction here is the starting health at 3660. So he's going to be able to live through quite a bit once you get him leveled up to 20. And honestly, at 2.064, that melee multiplier isn't too bad. So wouldn't be a bad Purge Thrall to have as one of your melee guys. Now, another trend on 1520 was using this one as a main fighter. And bless people's heart on there for trying to help. I think what they were seeing was the 15 strength and the 30 vitality, and now that we can see that the melee multiplier and the ranged multiplier, it's just not very good. I think this one's better served curing your corruption. But if that's not what you want to do, by all means, go ahead and do it. Another trend is using bearers as fighters. And in my experience here, the ones that I've found, not very good. Their health pool isn't even all that good. And their melee and range multipliers are just terrible. So again, you can use them if you want to, but I think the real one that everybody is kind of into right now is the Skelos Bearer 3. This is obviously a glitch or some type of programming error, or it's an exploit. 61,574 health on this thing. It's never going to die when you get it leveled to 20. There's no fight in the game that won't be able to end with a 2.16 melee multiplier that they're going to die. It's just not going to happen. but it's my experience that chasing stuff like this is just not worth the time because typically it gets fixed. I was told the other day that it got fixed, but the ones that exist are going to stay the same. I spawned these in as Skelos Bears 3, and this is what I got. So I don't think the coding's been fixed. I'm not going to tell anybody how to play a game, but, you know, chasing this to me is kind of a waste of time. What isn't wasting time is our science experiment, so let's get right to that. Here I have two identical snow hunters. The only difference is one is in black armor, the other one is in white. Their growth chances are exactly the same. I've given both of them stakes, so when they level up, they're going to get the chance at vitality. And I've given them both Silent Legion armor as well as a momentum so that they have some armor and a weapon so they can go do these fights. My goal here is to show you guys, we already know the perks are going to be different. So I'm going to try to add or subtract the numbers from the perks to get back to the base stats that they were at level 20 and show you that even though they have the same percentage chances, they're not going to end up the same. And so off we went into the fights, and even at level 0, these snow hunters were able to tank these bosses no problem. I did this on purpose because I am in the habit of collecting skeleton keys. And if you as a new player are not collecting skeleton keys just yet, start doing it now because we are going to burn through them here in an episode or two. But you can clearly see they tanked them no problem. I'm basically just standing back being the camera at this point, and it was really kind of awesome to see that they were this good at that low level. When all was said and done, I don't even have to do the math on the stats because conveniently, all of the perks are actually in their own little parentheses, whether red or green for good or bad. We're not going to cover that right now. Those can be re-rolled. That's a whole separate issue. We're going to focus on the white numbers for the attributes. In the white armored snow hunter, we got 39 strength, 20 agility, 52 vitality, and 7 grit. And when we switch over and look at the black armor snow hunter, take a look at that grit number. It's at 17. That 45% procced way more often on this one than it did on the other one. And that kind of proves my point that I've been trying to make, that even though it's only a 45% chance, each level is its own individual chance. And this one just happened to proc way more often. As far as the other stats go, the black armor ended up with 4 more strength points. It came down 3 points in agility and went up 1 point in vitality. And some of you keen-eyed people out there may say, hey, you've only got 3,666 health pool on this one, while this one has 3,819. Well, this one's actually including that +5 vitality perk, so don't put any mind into that. The black armor actually has the better health pool by just a very little bit. But for the most part, these two came out pretty close, but that grit number is kind of an outlier, and it did proc a lot more often than I anticipated. Hopefully this kind of information is helping you new players get yourself in a good spot when it comes to Thralls, and heck, maybe even some of you experienced players learned something from this. I had a really good time making it. In the next one, we're going to look at our third base place and our first look at purges and why we're making our third base place where we are. And I can't wait to get to that one. And if you guys are into that, don't forget to like the video and subscribe because it really does help. And until next time, guys, thank you for watching till the end. I will see you very soon. Bye.